Hey everybody, welcome back to today's video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the New York Giants. So with the New York Giants, they actually had a very good regular season. I think the fact that Saquon went down, I think it was week 2, and they were able to really be within a game of the division, I think surprised a lot of people. So obviously with getting Saquon back and just the young team that they have, I think they are probably the best, most balanced team in the NFC. Now, to me, I'm really looking at from like top to bottom, right? If you look at a team like Washington, their defense, I think, is better than the Giants. And if you look at a team like Dallas, I think their offense is better than the Giants. But when you look at them from a collective standpoint, whereas Dallas is very weak on the defensive end, and I think Washington is kind of very weak on the offensive end, whereas you have the Giants, they're just very good at everything, right? If you are going to rank the division and say who's got the best of what, the Giants may be second in almost every category. That's actually not a bad thing. I think with that being said, they do have a realistic chance of winning the division this year because, again, if you're not bad in any area, you really can't get taken advantage of when you play the teams that are strong in one area and weak in another. But before we talk about the regular season projections, let me get into the offseason. So obviously for the offseason, the huge signing was the Kenny Golladay signing from the Detroit Lions. Again, you let a guy like Golden Tate walk, so you needed to replace him with someone. And now adding Kenny Golladay to the mix, you do have a lot of wide receiver options. You got guys like Darius Slayton, obviously Kenny Golladay, who you just signed, and then they also had Sterling Shepard, and then don't forget the tight end Ingram. There is a lot of weapons for Daniel Jones to throw to now. And obviously when you get Saquon back, you're going to have an elite running back there. So to pair him with all those weapons you have, if Daniel Jones could take another step up in his third year now, this offense has the potential to be a top 10 fringe offense, I think. And then through free agency, some were re-signings, guys like Leonard Williams. I think that was very huge when he got traded from the Jets to the Giants. A lot of people thought that he was kind of underperforming, but since he's been on the Giants, he's been very good for them in that year and a half that he's been on the roster. And then they signed some guys for depth, some guys like Kyle Rudolph, obviously the former Vikings tight end. They got John Ross, the former speedster wide receiver from the Cincinnati Bengals. Another big signing, though, as well, that I forgot to mention was Adoree Jackson. He actually got a very big deal. So again, you're pairing him with James Bradberry, who was very good last year. You have the makings of two legit shutdown corners, especially since Adoree Jackson is now going to essentially be guarding the number 2 wide receiver on opposing teams, because obviously the way James Bradberry played, he's probably going to get the number 1s on most weeks. So now let's move ahead to the draft. They were able to trade out of the number 11 pick. I actually thought they were going to take a tackle at 11, whereas the Chargers obviously took the guy at 13 that I thought the Giants might. But I guess it makes sense at that point. If you are the Bears, they traded up, of course, and if you're the Giants, you got an additional first-round pick for next year's draft. So again, if maybe they did not like the tackle, they moved back. And again, with that pick, they did take Kadarius Toney, the wide receiver out of Florida. And again, I think if you're the Giants, if you were debating between taking a wide receiver or taking a tackle, and you could move back 9 or 10 spots, pick up an additional first-round pick, and still get a wide receiver, I think that's a win for the team. And then for the rest of the draft, at pick 50, they took Azeez Ojulari, who he was a potential late first-round pick on most mock drafts. So I think you kind of got a steal there. Now at pick 71, you took Aaron Robinson, a corner, so now that's adding more depth. And also, obviously, because you're paying those first 2 guys so much money, right, you need to bring in some younger guys. So, obviously, if you're looking 3-4 years down the future, if some of those corners that you gave the big money to, if they start to get old, cornerback is a position where if they lose it a little bit, it usually means that they fall off a lot. And again, I'll go over the rest of the draft. I usually like to stop at that 100th spot because, again, those are about 3 rounds, 100 picks in. And it's really tough to make the team if you're not at least a 3rd round pick. Again, I had a video where I talked about the draft in general and just the hit rate and the success rate of even 1st round picks. But again, let me just go over the rest of the draft pretty quickly. The Giants actually did not have that many picks, so it should be pretty quick. So at pick 116, they took a linebacker, Ellerson Smith. At pick 196, they took a running back, Gary Brightwell. Obviously, you need to have someone back up Saquon if he does get hurt again. Now, obviously, hopefully he doesn't. And then at pick 201, they took Rodarius Williams. So again, like I said, let's just focus on those first 3 rounds. And I really like what they did. Again, I would have maybe taken an offensive lineman, but the fact that they didn't, You just gotta have to roll out there with the guys that you have, but you did improve the wide receiver position. You obviously got a pass rusher, which is much needed, especially in a division where you're gonna have to face Dak twice a year. And then picking up another corner, obviously adding to the depth that you now have on the secondary. If you're facing teams, especially a lot of the good teams now in the NFL, they have 2-3 good wide receivers, so you're gonna need a lot of corners to match up. Now quickly, before I get into the regular season, let me just go over the money. Right now they have about $3 million of cap space, and next year they're projected at 1.7. So with a lot of these big deals that they've signed over the past couple off seasons, it obviously does restrict your salary cap in future seasons, and you're seeing that now. You're essentially at a point where the team that you have right now is going to be your roster pretty similarly for the next 2 or 3 seasons. But again, if guys like Daniel Jones can improve, and obviously if Saquon can stay healthy, they do have, I think, a playoff team already. And then let's get right into the season. In terms of projections for them, I think they're anywhere from about a 7 to a 10 win team, right? If you win 7 or 8 games, you're probably gonna just barely miss the playoffs, which I think is probably on the low side for the Giants, obviously barring injuries. But I do think 9 to 10 wins is probably more realistic for them. And then at that point, you just have to see, does 10 wins get you in as a wild card, or does it actually win you division? I think obviously the Giants, you don't really care at this point, especially if you're a Giants fan. They've missed the playoffs, I think 4 or 5 out of the last 5 or 6 years. So you're just excited to see them relevant again and back in the playoffs. I am not personally as low on Daniel Jones as a lot of people are. I think Daniel Jones is actually a very good quarterback. So I think he gets a unfortunate rap because they took him at pick 6. But again, this is now 2 years removed. If we go back to that draft, which is why I made the video on the draft on how it doesn't really matter at the end of the day who your team picks as long as you're a good player. But if you go back 2 years, everyone was so upset that the Giants took Daniel Jones. But if we remember, why were the Giants fans so upset? It was because they wanted Dwayne Haskins, who literally 2 years in got cut from his team that drafted him as a first-round pick and now is backing up Ben Roethlisberger in Pittsburgh. So at that point, if the Giants fans had gotten their way and got Dwayne Haskins, maybe that would have been a similar trajectory for Dwayne Haskins and they would have still had to release him. And now you'd be searching for a quarterback. So I think a lot of Giants fans don't really give Dave Gettleman any credit at all, but that's unfortunate, but a lot of fans do that. But I think the pick actually turned out to be much better than who the fans thought they should have taken. But that's going to do it for the end of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you did make it this far, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, as both of those do help the channel out a lot. But again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I look forward to the next one. Bye.